And welcome to Bulls in Red, your football podcast about RB Leipzig in English, which is at home in Leipzig and is made for you to listen to wherever you are on this little planet. So, good evening. Your hosts are Richard and Mario. And Richard, how the devil are you tonight?
I'm good, thank you, Mario. You're welcome.
Brilliant. Great to have you back. First, want to talk about, I would love to talk about current stats. Because if you look at the situation of RB Leipzig, it looks like this. We had 4 match days, we had four matches, and the team managed to get 3 clean sheets, including keeping up a tradition of not scoring at the Milan tour at St. Pauli. At least this time the team didn't lose, but they didn't win either. Didn't concede any goals, but didn't score any either. So that's a great tradition. But anyway, it's one of 3 clean sheets out of 4 games. Also, did you know that RB Leipzig has been unbeaten in 15 Bundesliga matches? Quite an extensive long streak. I'm not sure if we ever had that before. And RB Leipzig never lost to a newly promoted team, and that's for the 33rd time. So that's a new record, actually, in the Bundesliga. So all in all, RB Leipzig has won 8 out of 12 possible points, and that's pretty much 2 points per game, right, Richard? So I'm going to ask you, what's all the fuss about?
I ain't got no clue, to be honest, right? So nothing to complain about here. No, honestly, I think it's all about the trend. The trend is your friend, and in that case, it's not, because the trend doesn't look good, does it? So we are lacking of creating chances, lacking of scoring goals, and to be honest, we were pretty lucky that we came away with a point at St. Pauli and versus Union Berlin that week before. As the game went, it wouldn't be a huge surprise if we had lost that one too by a conceding goal in the final 10 minutes. So, yeah. On one hand side, you're correct, and that's what Marcus said today in the press conference. What's it all about? It's not that bad. Look, we are unbeaten and so on, and that's all true. Okay, nothing to argue against that. Mm-hmm. But how we achieved and how we came to that point, I think that's the question. That's something, a fair point to look at and to say, okay, if we are maintaining this form that we are showing right now in the past weeks, okay, things will get ugly in the upcoming months.
I must admit, I agree with you. And I always thought with these kind of opponents that we had, like Union, VfL Bochum, no disrespect, and also St. Pauli as a newly promoted team who had lost the first 3 games, I always thought this is the perfect time of building up a cushion before we actually meet the big guns during the big and busy and fully packed weeks. Now, it seems like that credit that we may have had, or that cushion that we might have wanted to build up, we have used up already. We haven't got it. In that case, or in that regard, we are looking at this first half of the season with slight concern. I'm actually concerned that if things don't turn around quickly, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly until the winter. And I'm a little bit more alarmed than last year. I know at the beginning of the season I was pretty excited, but I think we all have been grounded a little bit. And that's the mood in the city as well, and with the fans as well, because the style of football hasn't convinced us. It's not that kind of attacking, intense, fighting style of football that we've seen last season. I know it took a while until we actually got there, but even at the beginning of last season, I'm coming back to that Stuttgart match. They unleashed power when they beat Cologne 6-0. The team which was running most of the distance for last year, like you told us. That was just awesome football, and powerful and beautiful to watch. But we haven't got anything like that. It's like the team's asleep at the wheel. It's asleep. It's really difficult at the time. So looking at that style of football that we have to watch and endure at the time, currently at the moment, with the lack of intensity, the fight and the high press, and it seems to be very slow and static and without any creativity. And we're also missing elements of surprise, the ones that we've seen last season. And what I also saw as well and what it feels like, that sheer determination to force a win, to force a goal, like we're seeing currently from Bayern 04 Leverkusen, VfB Stuttgart and Bayern München, that is missing. That is totally missing. So that high intensity football is not there. So what do you think does it take for the team to return to this type of attractive football and successful football that we love so much?
I think it's important to finally find back to winning ways. So it's simple as that. Win one game and then could unleash or be the starting point of some kind of streak. If you look back to the last season, we took away a lot of wins, but if you're comparing the stats of X goals from this year to last year, it's not that far apart from another.
Okay.
But we took away those wins, and it took us statistically until mid-October. So basically, just before the home match versus Red Star, where we won convincingly and scored 3.1x goals. And from that point on, the very next game was that 6-0 you mentioned a few seconds ago versus Cologne.
Okay.
And so then had we a little setback versus Mainz, but came back even stronger with the away win at Red Star. Our playing style was way better than in the beginning, but to be honest, the results wasn't in every case. But I think so that makes me a little bit optimistic. So that Marco Rose made it once. So last season he showed, we had a tough start, and we talked about it. We talked about this fact that we are overperforming, and now we're talking. We have shitty stats and we are not performing. So we get the results we were deserving. And that's a difference, and I hope that Marco Rose is going to find a way again to adjust the team and to tell them maybe it would be a good advice to say, hey, let's get back to our basics, one step back. Don't overthink everything. Don't do it more complicated than necessary. Play what you're able to. Play what you can. Play the ball to the next open man, to the open lad in the open space, and maybe run a bit more. Sure, it wouldn't harm.
Especially you old folks, run a bit more.
Yeah. But then I think, make it a little bit more simple and believe in your strengths. And if you hang on, results will come one day, and we think we have a little of patience. I wouldn't be that surprised if we are going to see a bounce back game this Saturday already versus Augsburg. But on the other hand side, maybe it's another 1-0 and one ugly 1-0 again, and we have to wait a little bit longer.
But let's talk about Augsburg a little bit later. But hey, at this point in time, I would take a 1-0 win. No problem. Sometimes I do wonder, are we maybe just expecting too much as fans, and are we just spoiled clients, so to speak? Because in my mind, there's no time left. The turnaround has to happen this Saturday. It has to happen this Saturday, and in my mind, and I don't think it needs to be a beautiful game to watch with high press. We just need the 3 points. So if it's an ugly win, we take an ugly win. If it's a penalty that somebody apart from Gopenda takes and scores, wonderful. We'll take that. But definitely the turnaround has to come this Saturday, because on Wednesday there's even a bigger challenge ahead of us that we need to be ready for, and where we need another 3 points if you really want to get into the last 16 at some point of the newly created format of the Champions League. Ooh, very interesting, to be honest. Very interesting. There has been a lot of discussion about the RB Leipzig squad. And I know we got really excited at the beginning of the year because it seemed as if, important players we could keep. If I think about Gopenda, Šeško, there were rumors that they would leave. And the return, well, it's not a return. It is a return. He's loaned out. So we loaned him for a second year of Xavi, which seemed to be impossible at times, with the big forces like Bayern Munich approaching the stage and trying to grab him. And I'm not going to mention his name anymore. I'm going to leave that. So we were really excited because we had some really exciting additions, and the last one, especially the last one, which I still can't pronounce, young, exciting, talented player. It felt like we're back to the RB Leipzig DNA, but now with the additional impact of experienced and wonderful and extraordinary players like Xavi, like Gopenda, Šeško, on top of our squad, which really experienced, had a little bit of Bayer Leverkusen vibes. So we're really excited, but now it seems a little bit, there hasn't been any improvement from 12 months ago. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this is too harsh. And if I think about the fact, that there are quite a few players who played in Euros, so at some point you will get tired, and then there hasn't been a long gap. But at the same time, they get shitloads of money. I do apologize, and they practice this every day, so they should know what they're doing. What do you think, Richard? Has there been any improvement, or am I wrong? Tell me I'm wrong.
Now, until now, from the start of the season, I don't see any real improvement. It's just like putting a head against the wall and trying over and over again, but with no effort of all your tries.
Mm-hmm.
And I read or I heard something. I think it was at the For Fans podcast, or I read it on X. I'm not quite sure. And someone mentioned that the last decent match, the last high quality playing style match he watched was the 4-1 win versus Dortmund, which was basically the last match Xaver Schlager played in. The
He's
week
right.
later,
He is right.
in the away game at Hoffenheim, he got this torn ACL injury. And since then, it seems like this team, it's as if there's an anchor missing in defensive midfield, and nobody is able to replace that, and that causes maybe some kind of instability or lack of trust to the automatic running routes, passing routes whatsoever, that there's some kind of insecurity in the whole squad. I think it's an interesting point. I'm not fully convinced that this is the most likely or even the only explanation for this, but I'm some kind curious about this fact. And if this should be really the case, okay, then we have to wait until Xaver Schlager is back again. And otherwise, we won't see any improvement. But I think it's a little bit more complicated than relying on one player and blaming him for being not around. And that's the case, the reason, because the squad is not playing what they are able to show to.
Yeah, I think some people compare it with the sports car, which is in first gear and just stalls. That's how it feels. If you look at the sheer quality of the squad, wow, there should be a lot more pace, a lot more power, and a lot more success. Although, if you just talk about those numbers, 8 out of 12 points, it doesn't seem like a catastrophe. But if you look at the opponents and some trends, like you mentioned, it's slightly concerning, to say the least, at the moment. But if that's the case, and if we are in this sort of difficult situation, now I'm getting to the uneasy part. How much is Marco Rose to blame for that? Because he kept a pretty much intact squad, hasn't he? With some great additions.
At the end of the day, he is responsible. He's the manager. He's responsible for who's on that pitch and how they're supposed to play together. He's responsible for the formation, for his playing idea. And of course, it seems like, as I said earlier, it seems like, that there is some kind of, miscommunication, maybe misunderstanding or something like that. I'm still convinced that Marco Rose is a high quality manager, and I think one of the best we could gain after we lost Julian Nagelsmann.
Yeah, and
I think he should be rewarded with some extra time comparing to like Tedesco or any other coach or Jesse Marsch. Because he showed us already what it was able to do, and it wouldn't be fair, in my opinion, to kick him away just after 5, 6, 7 not that great games, but still with decent results,
and especially without really losing anything in the league. He hasn't lost yet.
Yeah.
But they haven't lost
He
yet.
hasn't lost yet, and yeah, even it's nothing is decided yet. We haven't lost the season.
No.
We have. It's so early, and come on, let's keep going with him. And if you look into the Premier League, especially into Arsenal, Arteta is now for like 5 or 4 seasons, and to be honest, at least the first 2 and maybe the third season too, they were shitty.
I agree.
They were shitty as hell.
I agree.
Okay, and he had this time, he had this vision, and now it seems all those puzzle pieces are fitting perfectly together.
Yeah.
So I don't want to go that far to say, okay, we're like Arsenal, but I think sometimes it's a good idea.
We're better.
Yeah, of course.
Who are they?
It's a good idea to show a bit more patience and keep an eye on the big picture, on the long-term development of the club, of the team, and long-term goals, and not only short-term.
But having said that, I mean, I do understand all of this, and I sympathize with that. And you could argue that Domenico Tedesco also had shown before he had to leave that he could turn things around. They went on to win the first cup, the first trophy, national trophy. But then you and I will remember how in the first leg of the following season, everything kind of stalled, felt so hard. Similar to now. It's like when you said they may be thinking too much, too many tactics, or maybe the coach put too much into their heads and too much burden with plays or his idea how to play. You could argue that, but I don't see this either with Marco Rose because he's been there longer, and he has proven for a longer time that he can work with successful teams and even with changing key players or losing key players. But having said that, I also wonder how long does the top management stay patient? And with that, I mean Minslav, I think he's in the board of the Red Bull GmbH, so he's not in that sense directly. Well, he is not directly responsible for RB Leipzig, but just overseeing the bigger picture, so to speak. Gosh, that's management talk, bloody hell. And it's argued or it's rumored that, he really hung on to Julian Nagelsmann and believes that with Julian Nagelsmann, they might have been champions of the Bundesliga already. So I wonder if he gets impatient and if this trend continues and things don't turn around in the near future, I fear that Marco Rose will be out before the winter, similar to Domenico Tedesco. And I do not know, I have no idea who would replace him. I can't see Tuchel or Zidane here. Can't even see Frank Lampard here. Ha ha ha. Alan Shearer, drop your podcast, just come over. Wayne Rooney. No, I couldn't see replacement. But maybe it's because he's been here for such a long time, Marco Rose. He is from Leipzig, so there's a certain attachment to that as well. And it's slightly concerning, but it's not as serious and devastating yet. That's my take on it.
I agree, and Marco Rose gone before the winter. Gosh, I think it's necessary to win just once or twice in the next upcoming eight games or something like that. I think that's what has to happen. That someone has to make this decision in top management, as you said. And okay, let's give them a little bit more time. Okay, last season we had this one ugly stretch between week 16 and week 19. It was the 1-1 draw at Bremen. Mm-hmm. It was interesting because that was the time when I was thinking, okay, we're in such a good form, and now the squad will make themselves a Christmas gift and come back with 3 points just a few days before the holidays. And we ended up in a 1-1 draw, and then we started. We've been there at a stadium
Frankfurt,
with 0-1 loss versus Frankfurt, and then came this 2.
But you weren't worried. You were not worried because they performed really well. Just didn't score. Yeah, okay, that's fair, and it's the huge difference to the most recent appearances we saw. Then we had this unanimous 2-5 versus Stuttgart, at Stuttgart, and I was like, we was like, okay, now
we had no win in 4 games. And then the next opponent was Union Berlin. And it was like, okay, if we are not going to win this one, then it's going to be...
Yeah, true.
It's going to be uneasy weeks. And basically it's similar. You know, we are now 3 games winless, 2 Bundesliga draws, and they lost at Madrid. And I think it's time to turn things around. So a draw on this upcoming clash versus Augsburg is not the end of this coaching staff, but
wouldn't help either.
A draw at Saturday, maybe a home loss or another draw versus Juventus, and then we have 2 away games. 2 away games at Heidenheim and at Mainz, and the tasks do not get easier.
No.
In that game. So I think and then bear in mind the very next game after those 2 away games is the home game versus Liverpool on the UCL.
Well, Liverpool.
So basically we have now 1 Bundesliga home games and then 2 UCL home games in a row. So
Wonderful.
if you look at this 5 game stretch, Augsburg, Juventus, Heidenheim, Mainz, and Liverpool.
Liverpool's the easiest, right?
Sure, the easiest to lose. So we need to get away with at least, I would say, okay, 7 points should be the goal. Okay, 9 points, of course, Bundesliga games should be the ultimate goal. If we come away with 7, this is fine. If we come away with 6, that's okay too. 4
is
maybe
not good.
Too little to make a case to keep.
It won't stop the discussion. It'll start something else. I mean, in terms of Rose and wanting Rose to leave the club, I haven't really seen that discussion so much. Like during that period last year that you just mentioned, when we drew and we lost, there were loads more people who demanded that Rose would leave the club because of endangering all the the Champions League qualification and all of that. This time, you can hear it a little bit from some people, but some also tell us that we should be caution. We shouldn't be that fast because he needs time. Similar like you said, he needs time to turn things around. He has proven he's done it before, but during bad times, the same arguments come up here. Oh, his tactics are limited, and his reactions during the match is very limited as well. And there's no game plan, or not enough of a game plan. What the hell do we know? We just watch football. Do we have a plan? No, we don't. And we think we know something tactical? No, we don't. But at the same time, we're clients. We like to be entertained, and we like to speculate as well. And that's our freedom. That's great. But give him more time. And I agree. This is what we need to do. And I'm concerned, but I think it'll be turned around. Now on Twitter or X, I've only seen pretty much somebody else with the hashtag Rose out, and that's RB Leipzig Turkey. They react in a very emotional way with Rose out. And there's also somebody who calls themselves RB Leipzig Mexico. And they actually come up with something nice. They said, huge setback after giving the champion a blow on the table. I mean, I translated that from Spanish, so this is not correct, okay? But I have faith that the victories will come gradually despite what Rose does. So he's not so convinced of Marco Rose in the direction because the team has quality. And then it translates it, I love it, go the little Red Bulls. Lovely. I much rather like a reaction like this. I mean, it addresses the problem. It states that there is an issue, but at the same time, let's still concentrate on the positives. And we have this vision, and you have this vision of Willi Orban on the 17th of May raising the Schale, the Bundesliga trophy. All of us are crying and with disbelief because we think back of the first 4 match days and can't believe that we turned it around or they turned it around. This is the vision. And it would be a home match. The last day of the season is a home match versus, I think, Stuttgart. Oh, wouldn't that be lovely? Wouldn't that be lovely?
17th of May?
Is it 17th?
I just recognized? Yeah, it's you're right.
Okay.
Oh boy, there is the Jugendweihe from my oldest son.
Now try to translate that.
If we're going to be champions, we have to cancel that. Of course.
Well, you want to cancel the champions? No.
No, of course not. Okay, so
wonderful.
Back to Marco Rose. I think he should have he should get the chance to reinvent himself, or at least to develop himself as a coach and creating new ideas.
Great.
Okay.
Shall we talk about something different? And I just love to talk about our next topic because it's your friend. I call him your friend. It's your most favorite player of RB Leipzig. He's an Austrian. He has 30 caps under his belt for Austria. He had a beautiful Euro championship for Austria. His name, of course, is Nicolas Seiwald. Like I said, you're my favorite player. And I think he's working hard to, gaining you as a fan. Like you said, it's not that hard. But he's trying hard, And in Hamburg with St. Pauli, he had his first 90 minutes under his belt. So he's really proud of that. And he thinks that is the starting point for a good second season. And one of his teammates, Yusuf Paulsen, praises him for his positive role when in the build-up of play of RB Leipzig. Is also very good when defending, I think, in his good days. So, but it's fair to say that at the moment, RB Leipzig doesn't have a problem with defending. We don't have a problem with that. And not so much from the midfield because we have the ball. Okay, cut St. Pauli maybe out. But the big problem is the attacking area and the creating of chances and eventually scoring. That doesn't happen so much. So according to Niklas Seiwald, he believes, there is a flow missing here and there in the team. In the past, they have proven that they can gain back to an attacking form, to an attacking play of football, a successful way of football. So he's very optimistic that for this year, this will happen again. So they're going to be more creative and forceful. That is something he is so sure that this is going to happen again. He's also mentioning that Xavi, of course, is chasing his top form. But contrary to all of us, most of us and all of us, he does see him on the training ground every day. And, he tells us Xavi is an outstanding player. He will be back. Don't worry, guys. So I take his word. He's a professional. Talk about another professional. So why should I doubt that? It seems to be feeling quite confident or comfortable with his teammates in midfield, with Amadou Haidara, Kefko, of course, but he does miss Sava Schlager. But Sava Schlager, I learned, is already in doing some sort of individual training on the pitch as well. Not with the team, but he's fighting hard to come back from his injuries. And Seiwald is also very optimistic about Sava Schlager, that he comes back even stronger, because he has come back stronger in the past from longer injuries. And Richard, I'm not sure if I remember this correctly, but there was a stretch before where Schlager was injured for a longer time, but he has come back quite strong as well, also playing with Amadou Haidara. We're kind of missing these two playing together in that fine form like last year. Yeah. But, again, Nick is aware, like the rest of the team, that they have dropped points lately, and that it is vital to win versus the next set of opponents, because it is, Augsburg and Heidenheim. You need to beat them. You need to get those 6 points. And he's also aware of the mood of quite a few fans in the city, which is not so positive, and the media reactions, which are also not so great and positive at times. And I think it's quite an understatement. Sometimes I think the media is also, from podcasts that I was listening to or what I was reading, the media is a bit surprised that we're having such difficulties, that it feels like there's a sports car which doesn't really, which is first gear and doesn't really start running. But according to Niklas Seiwald, everybody is determined to get out of this stronger and get back to winning ways as soon as possible. Well, as soon as possible, in his words, means now more than ever. So we're getting some fighting talk, some spirit here. I love that. Can't imagine really from Niklas Seiwald, because he seems to be one of those people who's not that feisty. But hey, if he says so, let's believe in him. Let's go for that. So Niklas Seiwald with some fighting talk and working hard to win you, Richard, as a fan. So there you go.
I wish him all the best. I keep my fingers crossed he's going to finally make it.
Brilliant. So Richard, I'm dying to know, what are we going to talk about when we talk about our next opponent? Who is that?
Introducing our next opponent, their Gegnercheck.
Yeah, it's FC Augsburg, die Puppenkiste from Bavaria. So yeah, what can we expect? They had a tough start into the season. Or more like a hot and cold start. So they had the 2-2 draw versus Bremen at home. I think it was a cow. Okay, then they lost 0-4 at Heidenheim, a game. That was a freaky game for them because they wasn't that bad. This result, it's not what should have been the outcome of that game because Augsburg was quite okay. They hit 2 times the crossbar in the first half, then fell behind with the penalty that Heidenheim got rewarded, and so they just seemed to miss Demirovic quite a lot in that game.
Okay.
So because they had their chances and Demirovic is now gone, there is at Stuttgart and most recently scored nicely versus Dortmund. Okay, and then they had a 3-1 win versus St. Pauli and a 2-3 loss versus Mainz. It was an ugly game last Friday. The Augsburg was the by far better team in that match. So they had 16 or 17 shots on target and just wasn't able to put enough into the back of the net. And at the end of the day, or the end of the mid through the second half, they lost their most prolific striker. It's Samuel Esende. He's now not around at Saturday because he got his 2 yellow cards and he's now off.
That should help, shouldn't
it? I would say Augsburg isn't a better team without him. Okay.
Extremely diplomatic.
Thank you. So they are not that bad, especially when it's all about creating some nice chances and find the gas pedal and go for goals to score. And they have got quite a few good names on their roster. There's Ruben Vargas, this Swiss guy who
amazes me every time.
Do you remember his appearance versus Italy during the Euros?
Yeah.
It felt as there was the game of his career. He almost shot them off the park on his own. And he's with Augsburg, incredible.
I know. In at that time when you think, guy, he's not playing for one of the top clubs. He's playing for Augsburg. And now he's putting in the performance like this and a display like that, and the Italians have no chance. Yeah. Wow. And you know what? And what the amazing thing is? He's still at Augsburg.
He's still at Augsburg, and he didn't even play in all 4 matches, and he didn't even was in the starting 11 in all of those matches he played in.
Augsburg must be a hell of a team.
Of course, but they got their weaknesses, and I think it seems like, at least in the first 4 weeks into the season, the goalkeeper is not the best. It's Nedjeljko Labrovic from Croatia. I hope I pronounced him correctly. And he's got a devastating save percentage of 52%. Okay, it's the last place in the Bundesliga. Yeah, Pete Gulaschi has 90. Okay, 90 he won't be able to hold 90% up for the whole season. But 52, gosh, okay,
sounds low.
That's weak. That's low. It's not Bundesliga worthy. And it seems another weakness should be their captain is Jeffrey Govolev from the Netherlands, who is 33 years old already, usually defending on their right defensive side as a right back. And I mentioned this Heidenheim match again. All of those goals and all of those attacks came over the left attacking side of Heidenheim. So it seems...
Left side, okay. Who do we got?
Yeah, David Raum.
Isn't that perfect?
On paper it's perfect. like every week when I starting analyzing those opponents and thinking, okay, this should be a nice matchup for us, right? And then, Yeah,
well, what's the problem with the team? They don't listen to you? Are you still getting through? You're not.
Maybe they should be listen to us a little bit more. I don't know.
Marco.
Okay, obviously the keeper, or at least for now, is not in his top form, or maybe he's really a factor in their defense. Govolev, obviously not in that best form, or not in the form that helps the team a lot. So yeah, keep on pounding over the left side. David Raum, go for crosses all 24/7. Go for crosses 10, 12, 15, 20 crosses. And finally find Šeško in the middle, and then, just keep your headers right on the middle of the goal line, and the keeper won't be able to keep it because he is obviously that bad. No, just kidding. It's, in 4 weeks into the season, this might be a little bit fluky, but it's a hint.
Well, maybe it doesn't have the greatest of confidence at the moment because of those performance of 4 matches, and they need to exploit that.
Yeah,
simple as that. What do I know?
And stop carrying the ball into the penalty box 24/7. Shoot from outside and go for the deflections.
I said it before. I'm going to say it again. Fire from all cylinders.
And go for rebounds. So, all right, after Augsburg, nothing that much more to say about. We have a brilliant record against them, 20 games played already, only lost 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been long, long ago, 2 times at the Cup at home.
I
it was
remember.
back in 2012 and 2014 when we faced them in the second and the first round. And I think the third loss was somewhere in our first or second Bundesliga year, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, usually Augsburg is an opponent that fits us pretty well. And with all that being said and all these things we analyzed in the last 30 minutes and how strong our players are individual and the weaknesses they got, and that Seiwald pronounces that it's now more than ever.
Fighting talk, come on.
I'm convinced, really convinced, from the deepest point of my heart or anywhere in my body, that we go away with a win on Saturday. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to away with a win 4-0, 4-0 or something like that. Something.
Whoa.
They don't do that much different from the other games, so to speak. But suddenly, this little lasts, little steps in your performance is that will lead you to finally find the back of the net.
I think we're just yearning for this match, which unlocks the whole strength and the quality of the team. We're just yearning for that, and of course, everybody who stands has to do their part as well. Don't get impatient. Similar to the situation that you talked about last season, in that difficult stretch and just before the game versus Union, where we had I think a similar situation, and where people in the stands maybe got a little bit impatient, and that's a danger again, that we're getting impatient very quickly. There's some misconnection or some error on the pitch, or there's some strange fluky chance by Augsburg. It doesn't really happen. It doesn't really work in the first 10-15 minutes. It seems like the team is not fighting that hard, and there's not that sheer will to score. We got to be patient, guys, and support them. But the team can help us by just, fire shots from all angles. Try it. We appreciate that. And we get behind you straight away. And we get loud. And we'll be roaring. And even better, you know what the secret is? Just score. David Raum crossing. And Šeško will score. Or Goalpender will do his thing. Just a word of caution. Last time Goalpender took a penalty versus Augsburg, he didn't score. So please refrain from doing that. Appoint somebody else. Goalpender will do other goals in a different way. But, you know what else I would love to see? A major improvement on set pieces. We're so harmless with set pieces. I don't know why. I don't know if there's specially designed plays, like in football, and it doesn't work. That would be awesome. You think there's going to be a huge win. Now, who's going to be on the pitch to get us that huge win?
Liebe Fußballfans, wir kommen jetzt zu unserer heutigen Mannschaftsaufstellung.
Of course, Gulaschi in goal, because Marco Rose mentioned it today.
I know.
That he's not going to change.
Do I hear that this may not be your preference at this point in time?
I cannot make it to fit things together from that. What Marco
make
Rose
sense?
said before. Yeah, it doesn't make sense, because before the season started, he mentioned that he's going to rotate a little bit, and that Van der Voort will get his chances. And, we mentioned our schedule, the upcoming weeks. So if not Saturday, when else?
Yeah.
There won't be an opportunity before this St. Pauli Cup match.
Exactly.
So
I don't think
I
don't think he'll put him in goal on Wednesday unless Gulaschi is injured.
Yeah, you won't put him in versus
No,
Juventus.
definitely not. Definitely not.
No.
Okay. So
Gulaschi in goal. Then Getrede, right back. Orban, Lukeba, and Raum, the other 4 backs. I don't think that Rose will move away from his preferred 2-2-2 formation, so Haidara and Seiwald, defensive midfield.
Mhm.
I think we're going to see Baumgartner from the start next to Xavi. And yeah, Paulsen got his chance versus St. Pauli. Didn't make it. Okay, come on, bring Goalpanda back, please, from the very beginning.
Mhm.
And next to Šeško.
Wonderful.
And Šeško scores twice, Xavi once, and Openda makes it 4-0.
And do you think substitute instead of Yusuf, there may be Silva again? Because he did come on versus St. Paul. No, okay, it would be Yusuf.
When we were in desperation mode.
No, we're desperate when Yusuf comes on.
We're desperate from the beginning.
No, it'll be great. I mean, I think he'll sub in Yusuf at some point. But before that, other people will have to do the job. So, okay. So what do you predict in terms of score? Did you say 4-0? Did I hear that?
Yeah, I said 4-0. I mentioned earlier in the episode that I wouldn't be too. It's truly, I wouldn't be surprised if this is an ugly game again. But I'm just convinced that our players are so much better individual than they showed us in the last weeks, and there has to be that game that things will end up in our favor, and this is it.
Well, there has to be the game where they click as a team. Individual players, all good and fine, but they really have to work as a team. Ka-ching. I'm looking forward to seeing that on Saturday. Not sure if it's going to be 4-0, but 2-0. 2-0. Keep a clean sheet. Keep that going. But score twice. Šeško, I don't care. Paulsen when he comes on. I don't care who does it. As long as we do it. Good. Thank you, Richard. This has been really good. Thank you for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate that, and we're very grateful. If you do like a little pod, kindly consider subscribing to our podcast on your favorite platform. If you want to leave a comment, feel free to do so. Also, you can follow our podcasts on YouTube as well and leave comments there as well, like somebody has done recently. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can send us an old school email as well. The email address is podcast@bullsandred.com. We're also on Instagram. Our username is bullsandred. And I think I haven't forgot anything. I think that's it for today. Oh yeah, we're on Twitter, on X Twitter. Username is podcast_RBL. So guys, keep it going. Stay optimistic. Let's go and do this and have that. How do you say bounce back game on Saturday? I'll be there. I'll be yelling, and hopefully it won't be for nothing. If nothing else, I'll lose my voice. But we'll talk to you again soon. We'll be doing an extra episode before our clash with Juventus Turin and return to a regular episode after that. So probably talk to you next week twice. What a treat for us. Maybe not for you, but for us. Once again, thank you for listening. This has been Bulls Red. And all I need to say now is Danke, Richard. And auf geht's, Leipziger Jungs.